3B. 8-3B. Okay, now on, when was that? Friday. Wow, so long ago. We were given the equation of a hyperbola, and we had to find all the missing parts, and now we're going to go the other way. So we're going to try to find the equation of a hyperbola given a bunch of stuff. Okay, and I've got, just 2 examples for you. Now, here's the thing. Let's remember, though, what you know about a hyperbola. There are 2 equations for a hyperbola. There are the hyperbolas that go up and down, x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Okay, so you know that, and those are the hyperbolas that go left and right, and there's the center in between them. That's the center right there. Okay, the other one is hyperbolas that go up and down. The only thing that changes is these 2 things up here, they just get switched, okay? So y minus k squared over b squared minus x minus h squared over a squared equals 1. And those are the hyperbolas that will go up and down with the center in the middle of those. Okay. Another thing that you need to know is, did I talk about the transverse axis? No? The transverse axis is just the distance between vertices. So that right there is called the transverse axis. So they might say the transverse axis is 8. That means from the center, your vertices are up 4 and down 4. Transverse axis could also go left and right, too. So up here. So they might say the transverse axis is 10. That means it's 5 and 5 and 5. Okay. The other thing is Foci equation. There's only one for hyperbolas, which is nice. It's c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And that's to find the distance that the foci is from the center. Okay, so that's all review. That's all the stuff that we learned on Friday. So now I'm going to give you some pieces, and we're going to put it together, okay? So here we go. Number 1. It says here that suppose that the foci are at 0 plus or minus 8, and that the transverse axis length is 6. Transverse axis length is 6, okay? And we have to find an equation for the hyperbola. Find an equation. So just given those pieces of information, we got to come up with an equation for this. All right, now my suggestion whenever you're finding an equation, they don't ask you to graph it, but I think you should. I think graphing it helps see, because these are very visual. This whole chapter is all about looking at them, seeing what the graphs look like. And so let's go ahead and let's plot the foci. The foci are at 0, 8, and I don't like that. And down here at -8. So that's 8, and that's -8. And those are the foci. All right, now that tells us a lot. It actually tells us that the center is where? 0, 0. Perfect. The center is right in the middle of it. And then we find out that the transverse axis is 6. So that means that the whole thing is 6. So how far up and down would I go? 3. 3 and 3. So the transverse axis has a length of 3 and 3, which is 6. And those are my vertices. Okay? And so my graph would look like this. All right? And then we're ready to put everything into our equation. So then we have to decide, well, which equation are we using? X first or Y first? Well, it's up and down. Y is first. And then 0, 0 is our center, so we don't really need to worry about h or k. So we're going to do y squared minus x squared equals 1. All right, now I have to find out what b squared and a squared are. I have one of them. I have what b is. B is this distance right here. B is 3. And so what goes underneath y squared? 9. Perfect. 3 squared. Okay, we're kind of going backwards. Remember, if we were given 9 here, we would have gone 3 up and 3 down. So now we see that it's 3, so we put a 9 there. The other thing is, I don't have a squared, but I do have the foci. And the foci has a distance of 8. And so C is equal to 8. So I can put this into the foci equation. Anytime you're given the foci, you're going to use the foci equation. Okay? So the foci equation is C squared, 8 squared is 64, equals A squared plus B squared. So go ahead and subtract 9 to the other side. So A squared equals 55. You do not need to take the square root because we are trying to find out what A squared is. And you go right up here and you plug in 55 and then you're done. Do you remember doing that last year? Maybe? Yeah? They're actually doing it now. They did it over the weekend. The average was like a C plus on that, B minus, because it was like a whole bunch of A's and a whole bunch of F's. Yeah, it was crazy. You either knew it or you really just didn't. So we're going to have to review that today. Okay. All right, number 2. Let's do one that's not at the origin anymore. Okay, so we're told now that the vertices of our hyperbola are at 0, 2, and 4, 2. And that the foci are at -1, 2, and 5, 2. And we need to find the equation. They might even say, find the equation of the conic section. They might not even tell you that this is a hyperbola. So how are we supposed to know which one to do? Well, ellipses have foci inside of it. The foci go here, and then the vertices are past it. With hyperbolas, the vertices are here, and the foci go past because you're flipped out. All right, so let's go ahead and plot these things. Really good to draw a picture to see what's going on. So right here I have 0, 2, and 4, 2. So those right there are my vertices, okay? And the foci are at, -1, 2, foci, and 5, 2. So right away, I can tell a couple of things. I can tell this is a hyperbola because my foci are past the vertices. I said foci. Foci. If you have a bunch of hummus on a plate, is it hummi? No, I was thinking about that over the weekend. I ate a lot of hummus again. Ugh, so bad for me. Okay, anyways, and then go ahead and go to the middle of this, and we'll find our center. The center, you know where the center's at? Yep, it's in the center. It is, of all these things. It's right there in the center of them. So that's our center. Okay, so what is that point? 2, 2. Nice. Our point of our center is 2, 2. So let's go ahead and make an equation for this. When you have some pieces, you get to go over and, plug them in. So this is a left and right hyperbola. So we're going to start with x, and we're going to do x minus 2 squared minus y minus 2 squared equals 1. All right, so I got to fill in a squared and b squared down below. So I know what a squared is because if I look at this, the distance from the center out to my vertices is what? It looks like it's 2. Is it 2? Yeah. And so then we can write 2 squared is 4. And for my foci, I have to use the foci equation. Well, how far from the center are the foci? 1, 2, 3. Do you see that? That green line right there? Yeah, it's a distance of 3. So here we go. Yeah. And so it's 6 all the way across. We don't need to know that, but you're right. So we're going to go c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So b squared is 5. Perfect. Done. Does it feel easier this time around? Yes, I know. Algebra 2 kids are struggling.